Kalispera, Kalispera. Hi, guys. That's welcome in Greek. Right now, Simran is actually in India. and
Yeah, and it's currently 5:44 a.m. and Diana is obsessed with me.
I am obsessed with you. And it's 6:14 p.m. here. Unfortunately, we're not able to record together, like at the same space, but we are going to try and see if this is going to work. And we're going to
Hopefully it
hopefully
works.
will. We're gonna notice once we edit the voices and whatnot from the mics. So today we have a heavy topic, which will probably be talked about again in the future in this podcast. But it kind of came up to mind when we were looking at this one video on TikTok in regards to bullying. So we have a couple questions that we're gonna go through. We're gonna talk about that topic, and we're gonna talk about what how bullying has impacted our life, and if we have gotten bullied in our lives, or what that may have been for us, in comparison to what others may call bullying. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go on the dictionary and ask Google what bullying is. So, to bullying someone, it's to seek harm, intimidate, or coerce someone's perceived as vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say so seek harm, which makes sense. That's what we notice as well. Harm can be displayed or conveyed in a lot of different ways. It could be physical, it could be emotional, psychological, it could be in a lot of different ways. Um, Simran, does that definition to you correlate with what you think of bullying?
I mean, yes, because through personal experiences, it does bring more harm, and it like shapes you as a person and who you eventually become. Be- um so yeah, it definitely does a lot more harm because you don't know what an individual is like, and you don't know what your actions will bring and do to that
Mm-hmm.
individual.
So, I brought up the idea of this topic to Simran after myself noticing this TikTok video of these two girls bullying an individual, or I guess it is bullying because they were being harmful in that sense, but they were making jokes of this girl that was posing for an Instagram photo or just for photos to have. The individual that or the model of those pictures. I'm not sure if she was an influencer or wanting to be an influencer, or just an individual in general taking pictures at I believe it was at a baseball or a football game. I don't have the whole thing, but they were watching a game for sure. And these two girls were making fun of the individual, calling her names and along with mimicking the movements, the poses that the individual was making. Um, I know for myself from experience when it comes to taking pictures of myself, I even noticed recently that when I go back into looking at pictures, I either have filters on to feel more comfortable, possibly, or I don't have long shots of myself. And I think that I dress presentable a lot of times, but I don't take long shots because I don't know, one, how to pose, two, I sometimes feel that others may make fun of me for posing certain ways, and I shouldn't feel that way, but oh well, here I am thinking this way. So when I myself saw that video, I felt quite triggered that this is what I try to avoid. Now it's not the end of the world that that may have happened, but of course it doesn't make you feel easy going out and displaying your arts in that sense, like your fashion sense and whatever you may do. It's very discouraging seeing others that should be lifting you up or feeling like, oh, that is so cool, instead of like making fun of you. I did not like the way that one of the individuals specifically was making fun of the others, especially because they are young adults, young females, and you would just think that they're just trying to push this person more up, or they would understand her, or like be like, hey, well, you look so good or whatnot. but instead they chose to go a different route with that.
Yeah, how you.
Did you see the video as well,
Well, I
Simran?
didn't see the video, but like I just know what you're like talking about, and yeah, it's stupid. Like those girls bullying that girl, it's stupid. Like she's having her own fun. You guys are there having your own fun. Just leave it at that. No need to, I don't know, talk shit about the other person. And if you do want to, like, do it discreetly, in a way that like no one is harmed. But yeah,
Yeah, I just think personally that either way, like if you have nothing good to say in public, just
keep it to yourself.
and you know it's not in any way harming you. Why go ahead and display those
Exactly.
emotions when they're not harming you in any sense? Because I understand if the girl herself was doing something to irritate them and they have to push back in some sense, but when the individual did nothing, it's like no, you could clearly see it in the girl's expression, the model, that she was feeling very one discouraged to like even the way she was posing at certain moments like became very kind of closed off. You could see through her body language that she felt just really really negative about the whole situation. And I put myself into her shoes, and there's two pointers to it. One, well, you're putting yourself out there, so of course you may not always get the positive feedback from it. So I get it. That's what sucks about going out there and displaying yourself. Two, the other thing that sucks is that hey, you understand humanity and how other people may interact with you, and it sucks that that happens, especially in public spaces. But that's where others feel like more encouraged to like, hey, I can make fun of her and whatnot. And it just made me think, what did the others around her think in that sense? Because if I was the individual on the sidelines, just kind of watching and observing this, would I have done or said something? Would I have in any sense helped? Is it okay to come forward and talk to those bullies, let's say, or is it just like, hey, stay quiet, don't do anything, it's her problem, leave her be? What do you think?
Like, I get your point of view, like where you're going through this, but like at the same time, I feel like in like that environment, like for example, we're at a game watching. Like, do you think we'd be paying attention around us, what's happening, or will we be paying more attention to the game if we're actually into that game?
Well, in the video, the game had not started yet, I think, or it was halfway maybe. I'm pretty sure it was the
Oh,
beginning,
okay.
because it was just like the girl just taking pictures right in the beginning, like right at the start. Let's say like me and you go to a hockey game and we're taking pictures, but maybe you look extra good, or you're doing like, she had a like really really big rock, so she was like kind of like doing this, like just
Yeah.
poses, and the other girl was mimicking her, and this and that, and it was just like, I don't know. I personally did not like that at all. Like I know that if it came to on campus, on university where I go to, if I came to see someone do that to another person, I know that I would 100% speak up, but I'm just thinking in such a public space, it's a question to myself. But would I have said something if I noticed? Because I know that I felt really rallied up watching the video, and I noticed in the video that there was this one guy on the sidelines kind of watching, and he was kind of like looking at the girls and then looking at the other girl, and I'm pretty sure he understood like, oh, they're making fun of her. But because of course the video cut after, you don't know if there was an aftermath, if there's something happened, or if the girl, the model, like left right after, or whatever the situation might have been. Because I know that like I myself, if I was the model, the person that was being taken care of those pictures, I probably would feel more encouraged if others have like been like, yo, just calm the fuck down, like why?
Like personally for me, like cuz I'm a very like quiet and introverted person, like I would feel intimidated to go up to the bullies and be like, stop. Like I feel like I just won't be able to do it, even though like I would want to say something about it. And then for the girl like who was bullied, I feel like I wouldn't be able to approach her either, just because like I wouldn't know what to like say to her. But then at the same time, I wouldn't be like happy about like what's happening. But I guess that's because of the person that I am.
Mm. Um, so how is bullying defined? Bullying is when someone aggressively uses their power to target another individual with repeated unwanted words or actions. Those targeted are hurt either physically or emotionally and have a hard time stopping what is happening to them. Students often describe bullying as when someone makes you feel less about who you are as a person. I am gonna kind of change it up a bit and kind of go to that route of like how bullying affects students, and how it may have affected us growing up. Um,
Like I know like what bullying has done to me as an individual, but like, and it's a lot.
I think that with bullying, the idea of power, that's how someone is able to obtain power through physical force, through scaring the other individual. I think that is never the answer in anything. Now, there are, of course, reasons to use that sense of power, physical, um, to obtain something from an individual. But now, like, this is like military and whatnot. This is a different kind of power. We wouldn't call that bullying. But bullying in the sense of like someone emotionally targeting you or wanting something to obtain power by scaring the other individual, I think is one, very negative, and two, myself, I've noticed it a lot. I've noticed it a lot with kids, even like with my cousins, like having conversations with them. I always have conversations like, how is school going? How is like, is anyone bullying you? Like that's like the first question that I ask them, because I want to make sure that like they are all right. You don't know how much a bully can affect you, like moving on. I guess so. With you, Simran, do you have any particular bullying experiences?
Oh, I have a lot. I have a lot, but I'm not gonna get into those. But like, I know those experiences are what shape. Cause like sometimes I think about it, and I feel like if like those kids didn't bully me, maybe I would have a little bit more confidence in myself, and I wouldn't be as introverted as I am like today. And that that bullying basically created an image or like an idea in my head that like, because I'm brown and the kids who bullied me were brown as well, and then it was around the time when I first came to like Canada as well. So I was like
Mm-hmm.
9, 10, 11 years old when all of this bullying basically happened. So
Yeah.
they basically helped create an image in my head that every brown person in Canada is a
A
bully,
bully.
mean person. And
Mm-hmm.
then I felt like alone because there were always like brown kids at like schools, and then when like other kids like the other kids of different ethnicities, they would be there too, but like I would be intimidated to approach them as well, so it was like really hard to find good friends. But then now all my friends, if I look at it, they're all white. I only have one brown friend, and even her, like, I call her my cousin because of how long I've known her and how I know her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of those experiences with bullying that has helped, well, not helped me, but like, helped me choose the friends that I have today. And and I'll talk about the image that they created, that oh, every single brown person is mean and bully. That image didn't go away or start to go away until I was like maybe midway grade 11 or something. I was like, no, it's not every single brown kid. It's just like a select people who are just like that, and not much I can do about it. So it's just,
Mm-hmm.
you do your own thing and like not worry about it.
Yeah, I know for myself, I've had like bullying experiences in a sense, or I would, looking back, like back then I didn't think of them full on as bullying because I didn't know bullying was really a thing. There are a couple of instances. I think I can name three in particular. Um, One where I was in the third grade. I don't remember why, and I really want to remember why. Um, because like when I thought about it, I got emotional because I was like, why did I get bullied to that extent? But I remember one instance where there was a group of kids that pushed me into a wall at the back of the school. Like this is still within the school, but the back of the school in elementary. And the kid almost hit me, but then he stopped because two twins, they were in grade 6, came and helped me out. Um, Now, at the time, me being in third grade, I was like, oh my God, these are my crushes. This is my telenovela. I was like, these are like, oh, thank you for saving me. But looking back, I'm really wondering why someone would want to hurt me to that extent. Especially third grade, like why? Um,
I was
and
in
the
like
only,
grade
and I
five or
guess like
six.
the trauma to it is the only thing that I can think of is because I guess I would have forgotten. It's just that I got saved right away from those kids, and I just remember particularly like tall, blonde, grade sixers. First, like that's the one thing that I remember right away, which for some reason, well, I get why, but I'm very thankful to them because I looked up to them at that extent, at that sense. But then because they were in grade 6, I remember being like, oh, they're leaving though, and it was kind of like, oh, what's gonna happen after? Now, nothing big ever happened to that extent that I may remember of. I had this other instance with this girl. Her name is Ioana. She's Albanian, born in Greece though, same as me, and they were a trio. And I remember her pulling me to the side because she thought I was flirting with her boyfriend at the time, and she got so angry with me. Keep in mind, this was, I think, in grade 5 or grade 6. Oh my God, the drama I had to go through. And she was like, be careful um, of the way you talk, be careful this and that. Like she had a power status because she was the popular girl. I was the girl that was popular because I was a smart student with a smart group of kids. But with her, it's like she's popular because she's pretty. So it's like, okay, so that kind of power that she made had. The other instance of bullying overall within the Greek culture that I remember in elementary school that I did not understand or pick up on until I moved to Canada was that they had made this song for Albanians. I don't I don't fully remember it, but I think they were saying like they made it rhyme. So me as someone that's Albanian born in Greece, I was like, oh, what a funny songs. But I think he was saying something like Albanians, you eat spiders, this and that. And it made me really isolate myself from my nationality, like from being Albanian and being like, oh, Albanians, like not thinking like the best of them because of growing up in that society of them making fun of us. But to me, I didn't think of it as bullying. I just thought of it as like, oh, it's a funny thing that they made up, but they don't mean it because they're not mean to me as an Albanian. It's just something that I guess they may have grew up listening to, and it never really popped into my head until like later on. I don't remember who I had the conversation with, but we were talking about our experience coming back from Greece and then kind of remembering, and I was like, wow, they really made fun of us. And me being like, this was like from like grade 1 to like grade 6, I myself would sing it at times. I never realized one, what the words meant or why they were saying them, and it really impacted me in the way that I looked back at the people that I grew up with, like Greeks that I grew up with. um, it really kind of made me feel like, oh, I don't want to associate myself with the Greek culture anymore because of that. I'm like more Albanian if not. So a lot of times when people ask me, like, yeah, I was born in Greece, but I'm Albanian, because looking back, I don't think we ever realize how much impact bullying may have had on us until we grow up and realize that it was bullying. Because as kids, we might not fully realize that that is bullying until later on we put it into the words, into the categories of how someone may have used their powers to harm you. Even though it may not have been physical, it could have easily been emotional and psychological, which for sure has impacted me growing up. So I think those were some major pointers um, in regarding to bullying back in Greece in elementary school for myself.
Yeah, like I feel like while I was in India, there were some kids who would like tease me and stuff, but it wasn't as like intense, I guess, as it was when I started getting bullied here in Edmonton. I feel like, and then I personally didn't really understand either what was happening and what wasn't. And so I kept it to myself as well. Like me being bullying here was like so intense that I didn't really understand what was happening. I remember I never told anyone either, like what's happening, because first I didn't really have like friends and I didn't really know what to say to my parents as well either. I remember this one time it got so bad that I started crying and my brother was there and he saw it and he went home and told like my parents, and then they went to the school and talked to like the teachers and stuff, like, oh, what is happening. And I guess from then it started being a little bit more under control, but it still wasn't the same either. Like, I guess once you're a bully, you're always a bully. But yeah, I do feel like those instances, those experiences are what made me to be the person that I am today. Because yeah, it's like a trauma that just stays with you.
Do you have anything to say to those people right now? If you were to see them in person, how do you think they would interact with you? And would they know that you felt this way about them, or maybe the trauma they produced, or maybe even the question of, did you know you bullied me?
I don't know, honestly, because I mean, if I was like 10 years old, they were also 10 years old at that time too, right? So I guess part of me does wonder, like, do they really do realize what they were doing, like, now that they're adults, right? Like, I do sometimes wonder, like, do they know that they were, like, a bully, or, like, they bullied someone so much, you know? But, like, saying something to them, I
Yeah.
honestly don't really have anything to say to them. Like, it is what it is. Like, they did what they did, and, like, I felt what I felt. It's almost like 10, 12 years later now, you know, I'm doing great in life, so that's it. Yes. Hopefully they're doing great in life too, but other than that, not really.
So, conflict versus bullying. So both they're different from each other, and people may misunderstand that a conflict may be a result of, well, no, may think that a conflict is what bullying may be. Now, with conflict, it would be that you're disagreeing or you're having an argument with someone where you're expressing your views and your opinions, and it can for sure get emotional. And I myself have a lot of those conflicts, even with my best friends and other friends. It just means that I'm passionate about a specific topic, but it never gets, aggressive in comparison to bullying, where you have negative behavior specifically directed at someone by using your power or control with the other person. I guess with bullying as well, you can for sure, with that power element, you could probably feel it at the workplace as well. Have you ever felt that you may have gotten bullied or had conflicts to the extent that you may have thought it could be a form of bullying at work?
Not really. Like, I mean, we all have conflicts, you know, no matter with who. Like, I have conflicts with my family, I have conflicts with my friends, and, like, yeah, I have conflicts at, like, work too with some people, but that's not bullying, you know? Like, I feel like I
Yeah.
now know what
Well, I
bullying and
in
conflict is. Like, I feel like there's like a fine line between those two things, and I feel like it's really easy to establish like what when they've reached like the bullying level and when it's still in like the conflict
yeah.
level.
Well, I know at McDonald's, they have this thing. So there's 7 hazards that we go through. One of them is called psychosocial hazard, which means essentially a form of bullying that can be displayed, and we're cautious of it because it can usually be displayed during the beginning months of working in a workplace, because a lot of people are like, who is this brand new person? Why are they getting all of these nice affirmations from the managers versus us? We've been here for a long time and we're not getting that, like, good job, this and that. You feel it a lot. I know myself, there is this specific person at work that I've had a lot of conflicts with, that coming into work made me feel very, I wouldn't say scared, but it didn't make me feel good, because I knew going into the shift that I may not feel the best about them, which to me, that is, in a sense, a form of bullying or going into bullying. And I know I had to get my managers and store managers involved to kind of talk to the individual. That individual has had a lot of problems with others, and they are very like power oriented, very like, hey, I've been here for a very, very long time, thus I know more than you, even though I would go like by the books and I would know the whole thing. I know I've had experiences like that. That individual, I have no problems with them working, like I still work with them. I have no problems working with them anymore because we built a good relationship. But there's for sure still conflicts that may arise that remind me of that, which always kind of make me like not want to expand that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, like outside of work, like hanging out and whatever it may be. Um, so, what is the difference between bullying and harassment? So, bullying and harassment are often used interchangeably when talking about hurtful or harmful behavior. They are very similar, but in terms of definition, there's an important difference. So, bullying and harassment are similar as they both are about power control, actions that hurt or harm another person physically or emotionally. An imbalance of power between the target and the individual demonstrating the negative behavior, the target having difficulty stopping the action directed at them. The distinction between bullying and harassment is that when the bullying behavior directed at the target is also based on a protected class, that behavior is then defined as harassment. Protected classes include race, color, religion, sex, age, disability, and national origin. So, kind of like, I guess, with the harassment portion, then, because it could be different. There was this other TikTok video I mentioned to Simran about these two Italian girls. This was in Milan, so this was in Italy. And they were at a train, and this girl was filming. She was with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was Chinese, and these girls were making fun of the boyfriend by mimicking Japanese words or phrases like konnichiwa, things like that I've heard from anime. Essentially, they were making fun of those individuals. I believe they were even doing the eye thing, to
The side eye thing.
No, not the side eye thing. Like they try and mimic
Oh,
what,
their
like,
eye shape is
yeah,
like.
like elongate their eyes, their eye
Oh,
shape,
okay.
yeah, into like Asian
Mm.
shaped in a sense. So at first, when I watched the video, because I relate to Italian culture, and within Balkans, we can come off as very aggressive and possibly racist. We're very old fashioned, so we are not really open minded until like we can see how it may possibly hurt another. And I believe that now a lot of people in the Balkan culture, like older generations, are opening up more their mindset about a lot of things that they have potentially thought. I know, like with my parents, like I still teach them a lot about like, hey, that is racist, don't say it, or don't think that way, because I know you don't think that way, but that's how the other person may perceive you, and your image will be impacted. And so you want to change that because that's not the person you are, and they might
Yeah.
not understand it. So when I was watching that video myself, I was like, oh, they're Italians, I'm gonna take their sides initially. And then I realized that they were making fun of them by using the language, and I was like, okay, no, that is different. That is like, that's a whole different concept. Like, if you don't have the full story, I guess you can have the whole thing. But when you see other stuff, you're like, no, I cannot support you anymore because this is on you. And this was after the whole thing about the girl, the two girls that were making fun of the other girl
Uh-huh. At
at
that
that
game,
game.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. So bullying is really bad, of course, and there is a lot of different ways to define what bullying is to everyone. But really understanding the differences between conflict, harassment, and how how you can I guess, benefit yourself within what actions you can take, like maybe with law enforcement or whatnot, to get support.
I guess like that line between harassment and bully is basically like when it becomes violent.
So there is direct bullying and there is indirect bullying.
Yeah.
So direct bullying would be the behavior that hurts, harms, or humiliates and is over obvious and apparent to anyone witnessing it. An indirect would be behavior that hurts, harms, or humiliates, which is often covert, subtle, and not always immediate acknowledged as bullying. So I think with myself, from my experiences as like growing up as a kid in elementary school, a lot of it was indirect bullying. That it was almost like the individual would do little things, which then would, when you look at the bigger image, it's like they're painting like a canvas, but they're doing like step by step. Then you see the bigger image and you're like, whoa, you are hurting me, and you don't notice it until like the very end. You're like, wow, okay. Versus direct, like it happens right then and you're like, okay, that does not sound good. You meant to hurt me. Um, which one which one do you think has affected you more, or have you had both happen to you?
Um, I feel like for me, around the time I guess it was happening, I guess it was more like indirect because I feel like they just thought, oh, they're teasing me, and then there's no harm to it, but they didn't really see what the actual harm to that was until after, like,
Yeah.
my mom went to the school, talked to the teacher and the principal. I guess that's probably when they
Yeah,
realized what they were actually like doing.
doing, yeah. I think with a lot of it myself, yeah, I think it would be like indirect bullying. And I think indirect can have a bigger impact because sometimes you don't realize that it you may not realize it is bullying, and you may even think that that individual that is kind of beside you there might actually be a friend. You know
Yeah.
how like friends joke, but some of them might not have
Intentions for you.
the best view on you or intentions. Well, I think that that's one. It could be I still can pronounce the word rivalry. And then or it could be a form of jealousy that the other individual has on you, or again just full on wanting to harm you.
Yeah. You never know,
um
because it's not
and i
like
think
we
and i
can.
think i think this is it's fake individuals in that sense. Fake, like you're acting it. There was a specific word I used. Well, it's fine, just think fake slash versus genuine friends. um I think at our age, us being 23, I think we've come to a realization of who we who we know are there, who are friends there for us, that
Yeah.
will stay there for us and would want to have them there for kind of like the rest of our lives, because we don't have conflicts to that extent,
No. Like I
versus,
said, conflicts they come and go, Like you could have a little
well,
spat about
you
this
could
or
have good
that.
conflicts, you could have good conflicts too. Conflicts is just opinions
Yeah.
in what I would think of. It's just
Yeah,
opinions,
exactly.
and it's fine as long as both views are being respected. You don't have to agree with them. You just listen to
No.
that opinion and be open minded. That
It's
person is
basically
just trying to
about
teach you their
understanding.
correct. They're trying to exactly. They're trying to understand. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I think indirect bullying is for sure a lot more harmful than direct bullying, in my opinion, because you may think that person is there for you as a friend, and yet they turn out to no, not really be there. And I've had that experience in high school as well. A lot of the people that I was really really close friends with, almost best friends, like have become kind of resulted into like indirect bullying over a period of time. Some of them were months, for others it might have been years. And then I realized later on, like, oh, this is not good at all. And then you have to realize, okay, well, let me prevent this by myself noticing the impact it has caused in my life and how I want to move on. And moving on means that, hey, you have to end this friendship, or put the pedal down and stop.
Basically,
and
just see what's
kind
good
of
for
lead them,
yourself and
Yeah, exactly.
take those steps to like make sure you're okay.
So when it comes to health, do you think that bullying has impacted students' health? So students, we can kind of talk
Yeah.
overall, plus for ourselves.
I mean, yeah, it does. I mean, it impacts your mental health because you don't like. Okay, for example, for me, like I didn't really realize what was happening, right? So at that moment, I don't think I had that much knowledge either. But now when I do think about it, or I talk to like others about it, whether it be you or like Logan or whatever, like like I see how when like I had more knowledge about what mental health really is and how important it is to like take care of your mental health as well. I feel like that's when I realized what those experiences like actually truly did to me and like the trauma that came with it. So if it's like it's basically God, I lost my train of thought. But I
It's
guess where
okay.
I'm going with this is that like you gotta protect yourselves. I mean, at like the age of 9, 10, 11, or whatever, you may not truly realize it. And there's like, you don't have the knowledge, so you don't really know how you can protect yourself from that harm, from that trauma. But I feel like when you get older, you do realize it. And then I feel like you look at those experiences and realize exactly what the harm, the trauma is, and what that did to you, your mental health. And then I feel like you can use that to filter out anything that may be happening in your life, like currently, and think, well, wait, is it like the same thing as that, or is it different? Like basically see what the similarities and the differences are, so that you can protect yourself from going through any more trauma.
Mm-hmm. So, would bullying through social media be indirect or direct bullying, you
I think
think?
that's I think it's indirect because I feel like with social media, everyone thinks they're, I mean, okay, everyone is entitled to have their own opinion, right? But I feel like people don't realize what they're saying could affect the individuals. Like they don't think about that much. They just think they're giving their 2 cents on something, but they don't realize what impact it could have on that certain individual who they are talking about or who they may have this opinion about.
Well, okay, so we know that it's cyberbullying. Um, it has for sure affected a lot of kids, I think, our age, like with anxiety and depression rates increasing. And a lot of kids, like since maybe like 6, 7, they now have phones. And their parents do this for
Yeah.
safety reasons and having communications with them. But I think having that access can be quite negative. I'm not saying about like TikTok specifically, but just social media in general. Because when you put yourself out there
Yeah.
without um, your parents
It's like
observing
how
a
we,
reaction, then it's not
yeah.
safe. Because I are like us ourselves, like we could do stupid shit, but because we are adults, we know that like okay, well we can at least handle it. Versus someone that
Yeah.
is under the age, they do not know how to take that
It's
feedback
basically
or
like
whatever
we
it may
said
have
in
be
our yeah, like we had some, like we said it in like our social media
with our
episode. Like
social media
parents, they need
episode.
to
Yeah.
take like they need to take the responsibility and teach their kids
Mm-hmm.
exactly what the pros and cons are, and make sure their kids understand as well, so they don't get involved in dumb, stupid stuff.
So Simran, I know you don't have kids right now, but when you have kids, what are some ways that you may hopefully try and prevent this from happening to them?
I feel like when I look at growing up, like we had limits as to how much use the phone or iPad, doing whatever it is, or on the phone, right? Like, I didn't get my personal phone until I was in high school. So I feel like, depending on the situation, for example, if my kids, they have to take like the bus or something to go to the school, then yes, I would give them a phone, but I would also have, like, sit down with them, explain to them the pros and cons, and so they also understand like what harm can come from, because kids don't think about the harm, they only think about the good stuff. Was like, oh, I have a phone, I can play this, I can play that, or I can watch this, or I can watch that. So it's like, if my kids, they have a phone because they take the bus, then I would have like a rule that, like, when you come home, you need to leave your phone here. Like, you're not allowed to take it to your rooms. Like, you're gonna use the phone in front of us. We can also kind of observe what is happening and what is not happening, just as a precautionary thing to make sure your kids are in like good environment.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids in today's age, they may assume that parents having control would equal to them being strict. There are a lot of great elements about strict parents, and a lot that would result in kids acting out of like a rage, or going behind their back, or maybe not having deep conversations with their parents, or being able to have those conversations with them. I know for myself, when I have kids, if I have kids, that I would take it very seriously. I will look at what are some things that I myself may have done and I did not like, and I would like to kind of have my kids understand. I know I think I had my phone when I was either 15 or 16. So I think I would do the same for my kids. But I think the primary thing with myself in regards to bullying and such, although cyberbullying is very, very hard to contain because, well, they're always going to have access to the internet and there's a lot of different ways to go around it. But at least I could prevent direct bullying, let's say from school, or indirect at the school, or in whatever sense, or maybe even around the area they live in, by having them live in a city that is as safe as possible. This could be an involvement of maybe having a lot of money and having them in a household where there's one gated housing. Maybe they go to private schooling. It could be a lot of different ways that I think you could try and prevent it in a sense, but I don't think it's fully preventable because it's still a way of growing. Bullying is just a form of what you'll get out in the world in the end of the day. Like, we still will ourselves, we will
Oh, yeah,
get
like, you
some sort
can't
of bullying
control
later
it.
on. It just happens. I think it's just why should kids have to go through it? Because sure, there is a great thing about growth and understanding how to later on handle it as an adult, but I don't think kids should have to go through that. Now, kind of going into numbers with cyberbullying or bullying in general, I'm just looking here. This is a bigger topic, but so with bullying, a lot of things that can result from bullying psychologically could be, there could be stressors, there could be anxiety, there could be depression, which may possibly result in the individual taking their own lives. So in the United States, suicide is the leading cause of death. And it says that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recently reported that the suicide rates increased by 25% across the United States since 1999. Now, Simran, we were born in 99. 25% increase is crazy in such a big country. And that is in half of the states, which has increased more than 30%. So it is a serious public health problem that causes immeasurable pain, suffering, and the loss to the individual, families, and community nationwide. So these are complex, but this could be due to combinations of mental illness, substance abuse, painful losses, exposure to violence, and social isolation. Social isolation could easily be due to the bullying factor. So I think for sure bullying has had a big factor in that. I've had people in my lives that have taken their own lives, that I'm not like, I wasn't close to them, like they weren't my best friends, but they were close friends, or I knew of them, and just kind of hearing about it, well, it really sucks when someone has to go through something kind of by themselves, because they don't feel that they're able to talk about it with others or open up. I know that help is always out there, but is help really always out there? Because everyone needs different kind of help. Maybe they don't feel that emotional connection with the individual, thus they don't feel comfortable talking about it with others, so they feel isolated, and thus they go through those thoughts. I know that I've gone through depression and anxiety. I still have a lot of anxiety, and used to have anxiety attacks. So I kind of know how that is. Now, I don't have for myself a pinpointer as to why or what may have caused it or the trauma behind it. But kind of looking at someone taking their own lives, I think that's kind of like my last straw, because it's just really, it just makes you want to keep going, because you don't want that to be the end, just because you have family and whatnot, and you don't want that, you don't want to add that, I know for myself personally, as well with religious factors. As a Catholic, that is not an option, although you could go around it, but it's not an option, which whenever you may have those thoughts, you kind of look back and you're like, no, and you're kind of thankful about everything that you have around you, and you kind of stop. But I know having hear some people go through that and going through it and actually losing it, it's really sad. I had a friend that passed away a year ago, and actually his birthday was 2 days ago. Or no, it wasn't 2 days ago. It was about 4 days ago, and I was in school when I realized through a Facebook post that it was his birthday. And I was thinking about him just a couple days prior, and I was like, oh, when is his... I was like, oh, it's gonna mark his 1 year, and I just kind of looked at the Facebook post, and it was like his family, immediate family, kind of being like, we miss you, this and that. And bullying is a really, really big factor, and I don't think, sadly, there is ways that we can try to minimize it. I don't think there is a full way to fully prevent it, because our society is very, very sick in a lot of different ways and forms, not just through that form of bullying, in a lot of different ways. And I wouldn't want my friends, or in the future my kids, to have to go through any of that, or even thinking of that.
I feel like
the question is, how do we
now, like,
how can we help?
Similar things, so like we're aware that these type of things happen, so we can, like, in the future talk to our kids and have a talk with our kids, like, hey, this is a thing, so if you feel like this is ever happening to you, you need to come up to us, like, and talk to us about it and tell us about it, so we can take, like, any action that we need to take as parents to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So very, very quickly, because I was talking about the US, I did want to mention Canada. So in regards to depression. So among teens who have been victims of cyberbullying, more than half have felt angry, approximately a third felt hurt, and nearly 15% felt scared afterwards. So National Crime Prevention Council 2021, Stop Bullying Before It Starts, 37% of kids associated depression with online bullying. 37, that was in 2021, and this was just through a survey, which is really, really high, of course. Now, the top 3 countries where cyberbullying is the most prevalent are India, Brazil, and the United States. But it is a common occurrence everywhere else. So, social media cyberbullying statistics show that over 65% of parents around the world cite cyberbullying on social media are one of their greatest worries. And, for us being 23-year-olds, and, we've talked about, like in our marriage episode, we talked about kids. We talked about how social media impacted us as kids, or growing up and kind of having it halfway through. So the 65% of parents being worried about it, I would, like in the future, I know that I would be in that category.
I already
100%.
worry a lot as it is. I'm definitely going to be worrying a lot more in the future.
Have you ever tried to help someone who was being bullied at school?
Not really, honestly.
And what happened if you had?
Because I myself didn't really know what was happening. So if there was someone else, going through the same thing, I wouldn't even know.
Thinking about it right now, actually, wow. In grade 7, I think it was, or grade 8, possibly, there was this, right after a basketball game, because I was in the basketball team, my best friend, Deja, there were 2 girls in my team that were talking bad about me. I was in the corner of the wall, so that they did not see me. This was by the cafeteria. So I kind of heard them talking bad about me, and I started crying in the corner. My best friend saw Deja at the moment. She's like, Diana, why are you crying? She overheard the conversation, and she walked up and was like, and she started like cursing at them and being mad and being like, do not talk about my best friend like that. She was in the team as well. So I think that moment, keep in mind, I am short and I'm 23. Like, I'm 5'3", which is short. At that time, I was like only 13, I think, and I was even tinier. I was so tiny. And so I felt, especially with that like moment, where then I realized, oh, that is bullying. Those people are talking bad about me behind my back, and they're supposedly my teammates. I felt really, really low, even smaller than the way I physically am. And Deja is like so tall, man. She's so tall. So like, she's taller than you, Sim. She was like over 5'10". And I was like when she did that for me, I was like, God gave me this best friend at these times because he knew I needed someone to kind of like help me out, because I was a very introverted person, and not until high school did I become a lot more extroverted and able to express myself. And that was because I made a decision to go into the arts, into drama, musical theater, because I wanted to overcome that fear of presenting, of being able to express myself. So I was like, okay, this is the way to do it. So I think that was the most impactful moment for me in regards to bullying. Now, I cannot pinpoint for myself if there's been a moment that I've talked. There's been moments that I've talked to people, like, with you, Simran, that one incident. It wasn't, I don't think it was indirect bullying in a sense of that individual saying what they were saying to you at that one time, and then me speaking up on behalf of you.
Yeah.
Which I know
because,
it made
I
you feel
had never
good
really
that I was
had
there and that I
ever
understood right away.
growing up. So when that thing was happening, when that person said what it said, I just didn't know what to say, and I just like, whoa, what? And then you jumped in, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, so
I think that's when I knew that this
I know
girl is
that
gonna be my best friend for a very long.
So I know that So yeah, I know there's been a lot of instances where that has been the case, and I have stuck up for my friends and, tried and be there for them, and, always taken their side if I've understood that they may potentially get hurt and they don't know how to express it. So yeah, that's something that I do, and I think it's a big factor to it is probably because of like the impact that Deja, my best friend, had on me back in junior high with that, because I was like, okay, well, I have someone that supports me. I want to be that vessel for someone else in the future, whoever it may be. I want to be able to speak up even more and whatnot, and be there to help others. Now, I'm just gonna ask this: do you think bullying is acceptable?
No, It's not
Okay,
acceptable.
just making sure we're on the right,
Like,
just making sure we're on the right,
bro,
just making sure we're on the
I
right
would be
page,
a very sick person if I said it is. Like, how low it is not, but it's like a sad thing too that we can't prevent it.
Okay, last question. How do you think other students who are bullied feel?
Honestly, that's a very hard thing to say because everyone is so different
Right? Because everyone,
and
yeah, everyone has a different.
everyone feels different things. Very, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's hard to say. Like, of course, they wouldn't feel great about
You know,
themselves.
there were times with indirect bullying that I kind of looked back and I was like, oh, is it bullying? Is it not bullying? Maybe I thought about it too much. And then coming back, some of those people back in high school that I might be stretching it out. I'm not even fully sure if it would be indirect bullying or a form of bullying because they were making fun of my accent or the way I was speaking, which made me very self-conscious about my English. Um, so and there was an instance back in junior high where this guy that had a crush on me and would buy me a chocolate every single day, would bring a chocolate every single day, and would ask me out every single day. I was like, dude, stop. Would then start. He then made
Oh
nicknames about me,
damn! I want to hear those nicknames.
and which resulted in bullying. In a sense, I felt bullied. I felt like I did not feel good about those names. But he had a crush on me. That's what annoyed me. I was like, how does a person switch up? Or is this his way of flirting? And then literally with two other people in high school, it was the same thing. And that was their form of flirting. They wanted to get my attention through bullying, which I thought,
Maybe
what?
they didn't
That is
realize
so
what they
odd to
were
me.
doing, you know? I feel like that was probably a very normal thing for them to do that they didn't realize that they're doing harm.
Like I know before I would get really hurt by comments that people would make jokes wise because I did not
That
understand jokes
is
and I would take
true.
them as
Yeah, I
literal
know that's true
things.
because in our first year, we would like joke around with you. You would take everything so personally that you would get mad like really easily too about it.
And you guys love the expressions. At one point I thought you guys were bullying me because I was like, this is not good. This does not make me feel good about myself. Um but yeah, but I've opened up. I understand the slangs of your Canadian world words now and whatnot, and your jokes. I'm a lot more open,
Yeah.
but there are still boundaries that I have, and I've always said this to everyone: jokes have some truth to them. That's why it's funny, you know. So although you may not fully agree with what you're saying, but you think it's funny for that moment, it could easily have an impact on others because this is why I feel in a sense scared to hang out with other people because I don't know what kind of comments they're
Mhm.
gonna make because they always make the generalized comments that they may have of you, and although they might not perceive you in that way or form that they are expressing through that joke, you may feel they are, and thus you have an impression of what kind of group of friends they are. Like I've had this kind of, you get that feeling with the individuals that you're hanging out with, like, oh, this person is not gonna be like my best friend in the next 5 years or my close friend because I got this kind of vibe from them through the way they were talking about me or the way they were talking in general, and I was like, yep, not for me.
Yeah.
Does not make me feel good. It doesn't have to be the form of bullying, but there are instances that I feel like, oh, this, no. Do you ever wish that people understood how much impact they have on you in a negative sense that they may have had on you through
Some
negative impact?
sometimes because I feel like if they did, you know, maybe they wouldn't do what they did. But then again, it's
Yeah,
like you can't really
I
prevent
do. I
it.
do wish.
But
I do wish that like as people grow, that they kind of look back at like, I keep on saying like a lot. Ugh. Um, I hope that they look back and think, oh, how have I impacted this person? Did
yeah.
I impact this
See,
person?
I think about that a
Like I
lot
look
now.
at,
Like now that like we're adults, like we're 23 years old, you know? And
yeah,
then it's like my
yeah.
bully, he's probably around the same age as well now, and I'm like, do you like sometimes think about like, you know, when you were younger and like see what you were doing and what like your actions did to someone. Like I think about that a lot if like that person thinks about it or not. But I don't know.
I know. Part of me hopes that they do, just to kind of think like, I think everyone that walks into our lives and has a conversation with us has had some kind of impact.
Mm-hmm.
I know I look at things I say a lot more, um, because I want to express my character in the best way that I can for myself. Not because I'm self conscious of what someone may think of me, but for myself, when I knowing that like, hey, I am being the best Diana that I can be at this moment.
Yeah.
For my little Diana to be like, hey, you did it. You are a good person. You know you're a good person. You don't need the validation, but at least yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know you were a good person. Um, yeah. So I've had people that have, in a sense, had that impact on me, like through indirect bullying. And then them wanting to kind of talk to me. I just do not open up with them. I do not. I'm like, you know what? Nope. I'm not, why start a friendship when I knew you could be this person?
Yeah.
Although people change 100%, it's still like, no. You've had a big impact that cannot change my way of thinking of you anymore. But it's, when people come back and apologize about the way they treated you, with, you know, like I've had people text me being like, apologizing, being like, hey, I really thought about it. This would have been like years later,
Mm-hmm.
like 2 years later, and being like, hey, this and that. And a part of me is like, yes, I got that confirmation.
No,
And
I
another,
feel like that would feel so good.
but then another part of me is like, you know what? It's old. It's whatever. You know,
Like I feel
like I know, like I grew past it. Whatever the situation was, I am fine. But it's good to know that you are growing as an individual. So, like, looking in the sense of like, you are doing better because now you're thinking back to what you may have done to someone else, makes me feel happy about you and your growth. But for myself, I knew that like I was a better person, thus, like, I did not fully need it. But knowing that you are doing better, I like that about you.
like yeah.
So yeah, do you have any last comments about the topic?
Well, it's like we said, it's like it sucks, and it's sad that we can't really prevent it. But I guess for the future generation, like we can at least help them out in a way that like and make sure they don't go through the exact same things like we did, and kind of help them, through their traumas, and give them the knowledge about what it really
Mm-hmm.
is.
I think it's gonna help a lot. It can be vulnerable, especially to your kids, kind of telling them your experience. But I think it's good to tell them so they feel more of a connection, more of a reality, as like, oh, I see. So if you felt this way, then this is why I may feel this way about this individual treating me this way. So they're gonna take a bit more caution, I think. Now I know
Yeah, I
this,
feel like it's important to be really vulnerable in front of like
your
your
kids.
kids
Yeah.
when like at the right time, depending on what age they're at. And like, from what we've gone through, we know what type of things happen at that age. I feel
Yeah.
like it's important to be vulnerable about the things that you've been through at that same age. So like your kids also know, okay, like this could happen to me as well. And I gonna make sure it doesn't happen to me. So or when it is happening to me, I tell someone like about it right away so it can be prevented.
Now I know this topic is really, really big, and I think a lot of people have gone through some way or form of bullying, although it may not have been intense and they might
Mm.
not think of it like a crazy impact in their life. I think, again, bullying can come in a lot of different forms, so it for sure has an impact on everyone's lives. At least they're aware of what bullying is. We will probably talk about similar topics again in the future because there's always going to be something in the news about it, and we may bring up different scenarios and maybe answer some questions that you guys, the listeners, may have in regard to maybe our experiences or what we believe. Maybe even about your experiences and our thoughts on it, and maybe how we might have um,
Yeah.
interacted with the person that bullied you, or if you would have done something. Um, Kind of going back to quickly my kind of first question to myself. When it comes to there being a fight, like there is a direct or indirect bullying that you, well, direct, I guess, because you notice it. There's direct bullying. Um, again, do you sit on the sidelines and just view, or do you act? Because the moment you put yourself in there, you could put yourself at harm. Would you do that? And second, if you don't do anything, it's almost like you're giving an answer already, because you're basically saying, hey, I have no opinion, but I kind of do because I'm not helping you out. And we always look at the negative side of it. So you would think, instead of the individual that's sitting on the sideline, you would maybe assume, like, oh, he has no opinion. I think he does, because if he did have the opinion of wanting to help you, he would have jumped in right away. If he didn't, he would just stayed on the sideline and done nothing and just viewed. Versus, you have to act, I think. Actions have a lot of words to them, even if you're not saying anything to them.
Yeah.
So I do not want to ever be in a scenario
See,
where I'm
that's
just
why
sitting on the
that
side.
phrase makes sense. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, so
Your actions basically define what
personally, I think that I would say something, and the only time that I wouldn't, it would be a fear of me not knowing how to express my thought in a way that may not fully harm me. I'm not scared of myself getting harmed. I'm scared of me not being able to express my opinion in the right context. Like using the right terminology. Maybe I myself, being an extroverted person, at that moment I freeze. And I'm really scared of that potentially ever happening, because I see myself being someone that will always go up and help someone out in need. But then a part of me thinks that, like, well, what if you just, like, can't think and you freeze?
Yeah.
So I think that's the question that I have for our listeners. If you notice there's direct bullying, you yourself acknowledge it. Are you gonna sit on the sidelines and just observe what's happening, or are you gonna go up and confront those bullies? Or maybe, are you gonna talk to the individual that gets bullied, the recipient, after it has all happened? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
We'll put an IG post up with that so you can submit your answers, and if not, you can DM us and answer yourselves that way.
Well, Simrana, I'm excited that we had this experience of us recording simultaneously while you are in India and I'm here in Canada. By the way, guys, great news. We are top 18 in our category of our podcasts in India, which that means a lot of you Indian aunties are hearing this. So welcome to the Mischievous Duo podcast. We hope you are enjoying the content, and thanks to Simran's mom for saying that Simran is in a radio show. I love that.
I swear my mom be saying that to every single person.
Your mom has to be our marketing person. If we get like those top numbers in Canada, that would be amazing. I think the top number we've gotten here in Canada has been 112, I believe, or 118. Which is great, because we haven't put ourselves really out there yet, especially with our marketing. But seeing that we were top 18 in India, I think was really, really funny. I told my mom as well this morning, and she started laughing. I was like, yeah, Mom, you see, you got to do something as well. Yeah, it was a cute moment for sure. It was just me texting Simran at like 4 a.m. being like, you best friend, you won't believe it. And then her responding. I was like, why are you awake? And then us literally 30 minutes us literally 30 minutes later being like, hey, do you want to record an episode right now? It's like, okay, let's give it a try, let's see how it works out. Okay, well,
I'm so sick, I'm tired, and I'm just like, okay, well, we did this, it was fun.
Okay, well,
hopefully
guys,
it works out.
This episode is for sure a little bit of a longer one, but we hope you enjoyed what we talked about. We will reference any information that we had from the definitions down below in our description if you want to kind of look back at everything. Otherwise, that is it for today. We do have, I believe, about 4 more episode topics ready to go. But if you have any ideas of what you would like to hear the next time, or maybe you yourself have some questions about us, you can go onto our Mischievous Duo website, email us those questions, or DM us on Instagram, and then we will answer them on the following podcast episode.
All right, take care, guys. Bye.
Adios. Bye bye.